I've closed $10 million in sales from one social media outlet.
If you're looking to generate more business and use tools like social media to organically grow your real estate business, this episode is for you. We're going to be welcoming Tacoma, Washington's real estate agent, Lynea Carver, who's going to share her tips on how to use social media to generate more organic leads for your real estate business. And be sure to stick around till the end to listen about the tips for YouTube, because you're not going to want to miss that. So let's go ahead and welcome our guest, Lynea, to the show. How did you get into real estate? And then we'll talk more about social media and getting into the lead situation, because I know listeners are going to want to know that. But first, let's start with your backstory. How did you get into real estate?
Yes, good story. I like this. It's a long story. I could go on forever about this, but the short version is, I kind of grew up in the business. I'm one of those. It's kind of in my blood. My mom, she was an escrow officer, loan originator, got into real estate when I was in my early 20s. And my adult life, I kind of watched her, transition into this new industry and just watched her excel. I personally wanted to try the business back in my late 20s, after my mom had been in it for a while. And so I actually got a referral from her to work with a mortgage broker, and I actually became a loan originator. I specialized in subprime loans in 2006 to 2008. And it was great, except for we all know what happened in 2008. And as a young, 20 something kid who had literally no financial common sense at all, no financial responsibility, no financial security at all, when that market shift happened, I didn't know what to do. So I actually decided to get a real job. And I went and I worked in corporate America for a large luxury retailer for about 12 years, where I like to say I got a PhD in everything from entrepreneurship, leadership, marketing, merchandising, retail, business process, system solutions, planning. And I was super, super fortunate to have this really in-depth career inside corporate, where in 2018, I was finally like, okay, I think I want to try something else. My life started calling me in a different direction.
Mhm.
And I wanted to get out of debt. I'm not gonna lie. Like most people get into real estate, there's usually a financial reason for it. I mean, because real estate can be a very lucrative industry. And so I asked my mom, hey, do you think I could make an extra $500 a month if I sell real estate? And her answer was, maybe. And I was like, cool, let's do it. Right.
So
And now I kind of look back at that. I look back at that, I'm kind of laughing. I'm like, maybe $500, right? But for then I was like, okay, cool. So I got my real estate license and in August of 2018. And I was still at my full-time job, but it was like 6 months until I had any business at all. I like 6 months. And I was like, okay, this real estate thing's a lot harder than I thought. And I was doing everything. I was going to open houses. I was like, I can kind of give you little tips of how I built that later, but I
yeah,
was
yeah.
doing everything. But it was just 6 months of social media, social media, and actually in-person networking. I finally got my first deal in January of 2019. 2019, I closed 9 transactions as a part-time agent, making just under $100,000 in gross commission. So of course I was like, okay, I've got to get out of there. Like I got to do this. Like my brain was like, okay, what can I do? So I actually, in 2019, I'd made enough money to pay for my wedding, pay off all my debt, and put enough aside for 6 months in reserves, just from real estate income. Fortunately, because I had a W-2 job, I didn't have to pay any additional taxes on my commission income. So it was kind of nice. Uh, yeah, that's not the way it worked in real life.
Yep.
But so I actually quit my job in February 7th of 2020 is when I retired from corporate America. And then a month later, what happened? COVID happened. So I was actually built my business during COVID. And that's why I'm here today.
I love that. And what an amazing journey too. Just up to that point, it's like, wow, being able to go through those different seasons and to be able to say, all right, I'm doing this full time, and to be able to jump for that piece of it, which you mentioned social media. So how did you start using social media? Because we all hear about it, and every agent knows you should be on social media, but how did you start with social media, especially the organic way? Because organic is a big deal.
Organic's really big because as you learn a little bit more about my journey, you'll learn about how much money I've wasted on social media too. So I speak from
Yeah.
experience of spending a lot of money and then also not spending any money. And so I can kind of speak to what works. So what I did at the very beginning is I had to be a silent agent, because while I had this awesome career, this awesome job, I also was at a company where like I honestly felt like that was supposed to be my whole life. Anyone who works in corporate America might be able to understand what I'm saying, or had worked in corporate America might be able to understand. Like I felt that if they thought or they knew that I had this other business, that I wasn't really into my job. And so I had to be a secret agent. And so first thing I did is I went through and I deleted I was really only Facebook at the time. I had an Instagram account, but it was like before Instagram was really a thing. It's like Facebook was the big thing. So I had Facebook, and I basically went through and I deleted everybody that was in the leadership role at my company, because I was like, I don't want them to know. I don't want them to know. And the very first thing I did with social media is, before I even got my key, because so in Washington, once you get your license, you have to apply and take a course to be able to get your key, your super key, so you can actually enter the boxes. The day I got my license, that the very next day was a Sunday, and I decided to go out to some open houses in this area and just start networking with agents, because I was like, hey, I've got to just like get my foot out there. I just got to do what an agent does. I work with new agents all the time, and they just want to get to the good stuff. They want to get to the good stuff, and I'm like, okay, so this is how you get to the good stuff. You just do the good stuff. So that's what I did. I would go out and I would just go visit open houses, and I would take pictures. I would take video. I would take stories and just be like, visiting an open house today. And I would tell people, I would just let people know, this is what I'm doing. I'm visiting an open house. And people didn't know at the very beginning if it was me or not. And I didn't really say I'm a realtor. I didn't do any of that. I just started like I didn't really know a lot about stories, but I just started putting it in my videos, like on my Facebook posts. And that's how I started with social media, just by going out. Didn't even have a key, literally had no key, didn't have business cards, I don't even know if my license was actually hung officially yet at that time, because I had literally just passed my test. And so I just went out and acted like I was an agent. And that's how it started.
And you had a
Then
phone.
what I would do,
You
yeah,
had a
I
phone.
literally had a phone. That's
Yes.
all I had was a phone. And I would go out and I had a phone and Facebook. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything about lead gen. I didn't know anything about anything. I mean, my mom being in the business, she's a little old school, right? She does a lot of farming, lots of like kind of that kind of stuff, events, client, door knocking, or not door knocking, but pop by. She's a real Brian Buffini person. And so that's what I knew, but I also knew there had to be something with social. I knew there had to be something with social media. And so that's literally how I started, just taking videos of open houses.
I love that. I love that. And what challenges did you face around that? Because, people are probably listening. I mean, I work with clients on this all the time and talk to agents about this all the time, is they hear video, but there's always a challenge when it comes to video, whether it's the tech, the equipment, the fears, like all of that. Did you face any of that, or was it just, I'm just going to jump on video? Or did you even jump on video at the beginning?
Well, yeah, of course I face that. Everyone does. I'm a human being. So there was definitely fear. So at first I wasn't on video. At first I wasn't on video. I just filmed video.
Yeah.
My first, I guess, what would you call it, like step into video was my best friend. She's always been like, we've been friends for about 20 years, and she's always been the more tech savvy of us until recently. But she was like, she had a GoPro, and she was like, Nene, she called me Nene. Nene, you got to see this GoPro. And she was like, I had actually like started like on social media. I had actually started going to like my local Facebook group, and I had like asked any business owners if they wanted to get together, because I love small businesses. So I started like networking with small businesses. And in the meantime, I ran into some other agents, and I went on the MLS and noticed that they had like stale listings. So I would actually ask them if they wanted an open house for their listing, because I just wanted to be able to like post open house on Facebook. That was really all I wanted. Like I didn't know nearly what I know about marketing today, but I had one open house that I was doing down my neighborhood, and my friend was like, Nene, you should actually be in the video. And I was like, okay. Like it was like I don't know. I didn't really have a script. I didn't have any training. She was like, she's like, I'll come to your open house. I'll film you. She's like, it'll be cool because then people who in the neighborhood, they're gonna start seeing what you're doing and they might want to know what you're doing. And I was like, that was my very first marketing advice from my best friend. He's actually in the aerospace industry. And she's like, he's not even a marketer. So it was really cool. And that was like my first like step into me being, I had someone filming me on her GoPro, and it's actually on my YouTube channel. If you
Yeah.
scroll back to the very, very, very beginning, I think it's one of the first or second videos I've ever posted on my YouTube channel.
Cool.
It was horrible. It was horrible. I'm like, yes, I'm stuttering and didn't really know much. I didn't know a lot about anything on video. And I was just kind of like, my confidence level was different. But I mean, there were challenges, but I just, I was like, you know what? The only way I'm going to get better, literally the only way I'm going to get better is if I actually do it. Like I could sit here and let this problem that I have, this challenge, you know, sit there and hold me back forever. But you probably have gathered by now, I'm definitely not someone who likes to, I don't like to sit and wait for things. I like to just go after things. Like I wanted to go after quitting my job. I was like, I don't want to be working corporate America anymore. I want to be done with corporate America. So I just made it happen. The same with the video. I was just like, I don't want to be that person who is sitting here in 5 years thinking I should have gotten on video 5 years ago. So and today I don't want to be that person who's like, I should have just done this. I don't like the shoulda, woulda, couldas in life.
Oh, I
So
love hearing that. And that is so powerful. And the fact that you took that initiative and made it happen is huge. And I know anybody listening is going to appreciate hearing that, even if they are fearful of being on camera or even touching the tech piece of this. It's like
yeah.
starting and getting better as you practice. And the fact that you still have that video up on your YouTube channel is awesome, because again, it shows the growth and it's where you started. And people love that. They love to be able to
Yeah.
see where you started and where you're at now.
It's actually really interesting because I find myself very lucky because I have a lot of people in my life who like to give me their opinion. Lots of people. So when I first started like getting on camera and talking, a friend of mine, another friend, she's a photographer, and she was like, Lynea, you're very stiff in that photo. Because I mean, I was literally talking like this, and I had no emotion to my face, and I was trying so hard to not say or ah or stutter or say the wrong word. So I was speaking so slowly, and she was like, that does not seem like you at all. And so it took me just like being really open and vulnerable and like just putting myself out there and hoping that no one would say anything mean, but hoping that people would actually give me feedback. And no one's ever mean. No one's ever been mean on video. Everyone, even if the video was horrible, like, that was so good. You're so confident, and that's really all I needed. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do more. Let's do more. So that's where it really started.
It's so true that you're standing out from the crowd, and people appreciate that and they recognize that, and they're not going to say anything because they're like, you're doing it, you're showing up and you're being on video and you're making it happen. And if anything, that's just inspiring them to take that next step in their journey too.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I think the hardest part though, when it came to like getting really comfortable on video, because people always ask me, what's your number one tip for getting the most comfortable? So I'm going to tell you that.
Yes.
The number one tip is ask your significant other to give you feedback. That's the hardest thing I've ever done with video because he pays so much attention. And so I had told him, I really want to get better on camera. Can you please help me? Because he doesn't really comment on my posts. I never really got anything from him either way. And so I was like, I just really want your help. Can you just give me some feedback on some of my videos? And so he comes one day and we're sitting there, and he's so thoughtful in the way he presents any sort of feedback. And we're sitting there and he's like, I want to show you a video. And he pulls up YouTube and he like, are you a car person? Do you watch car?
Yeah.
Do you pay attention to cars? I love cars. We are a car couple. And he was like, showing me a video of someone washing a car. And if you've never paid attention to the way they film a luxury car being washed by hand and detailed,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you, you should go back and watch one with a completely different set, because what he did is he said, do you see, and he pointed out every single detail in the video. He was like, do you see how the music in this video is like drawing you in? Do you see the pace at which it's moving? Do you see this? Do you see that? And he was like, here's what I think. And he pulled up a notepad. I think the list was like this long. I don't even know for real, but it felt like this long.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, I think that, he's like, this is where I think you're great. I think your point is great. You're well spoken. This is what I think you could have done better. This is it. And so it was the hardest thing I ever had to do, because you have to ask this person who you want to just think you're amazing all the time to like really like bring feedback. And that's the best thing I ever did for my video career, is ask my husband to give me feedback. And he would, from then he sends me like, he'll see like a really good car video or a really good house video. He doesn't like to watch a lot of houses on YouTube, because he doesn't want his YouTube feed flooded with houses.
Yeah.
He wants it flooded with cars. So but he'll be like, sometimes he'll forward me something on Facebook, or he'll be like, hey, check this out. So even to this day, he's giving me tips for growth on video.
And see, that's huge. And it's also really great that you were accepting of the feedback, right? Like coming from Apple, one of the biggest things that I took away was feedback, and looking at strengths and opportunities and positioning that to anyone that I talk to, that it's like, give feedback, but know that it's strengths and opportunities. It's not criticism. It's not to, get you angry. It's literally to help you do even better the next time.
Yeah.
And so being receptive of that is huge.
And I think it's really important in real estate, right? I mean, you have to be coachable. People need to be coachable. If you're not coachable, you're going to be stagnant, because none of us are perfect the way we are. Every single one of us has room for growth. Every single one of us has room for opportunity. And especially in this industry, there are so many people all around you who can provide you with that opportunity to grow. And so you have to be that person who's just coachable, whether it be from a coach, or whether it be from your friend, or whether it be from the cross agent, or whoever it is. Everyone that you run into in this business, your clients, they're going to coach you on what you can do to grow. So you've got to always be listening for that and open to that.
So true. And on that note, because we were talking about earlier about the challenging times in general, and how a lot of people are cutting back, and you're moving forward on some things, and being able to decide, where to put the money. And so when we're thinking about the coaching and just being able to take advantage of some of these opportunities that are thrown at you as an agent all the time, how do you kind of decide what to consider and maybe what not to consider when they're getting thrown at you all the time?
Great question.
I have a loaded question, I realize.
It is, because there's so many different deciding factors, right? Okay, so here's basically like, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story, a little bit about me, but it's going to help you understand. I'll tell you, I'll bring it back to the question. So one of the things that I learned in corporate America was systems, right? You have to have a system for everything. I worked in business process solutions. I helped write process maps for like, if this, then that, if that, then this, right? And I literally learned how to, not only did I learn, but I actually did it. I actually implemented it. And I actually would like write out, here's where the process starts, but then it doesn't actually start here, it starts down here, right? So I'm all about having systems. And when it comes to expenses, finances are a system. It is one of my 6 pillars of business. And I firmly believe that every single real estate agent needs to have a financial system in place. And a system includes cutting expenses when you know that you are overspending, or reallocating expenses when you know that you can afford it, but could you be getting a bigger return a different way? But being able to understand how, like for me, I have, some expenses I'm reshifting right now. It's not just me making a split decision saying, hey, I think I could be doing this differently. It's analytical. It's me. We track our spending, we track our ROI, we track our ad spend, we track all these different metrics on all of these different systems. And that's when I say, okay, this particular lead gen system that I'm spending X amount of money on is producing me 75 leads in a period of 3 months. That's 25 leads a month. Okay. For the same cost, I could be incentivizing my agents. I could be putting an incentive and a contest in place, or giving my staff a bonus, something for them that's actually going to help them perform better. Because when you're surrounded by the people, when you invest more in the people, whether it be your team, your clients, your whoever, you invest more in the people, that's when you start to see a way bigger return. So I think the best way to answer your question is I make that decision by going all the way back to the root of why I even decided to spend that money in the first place, analyzing what that spend is actually getting me, and then look future thinking, okay, this is where I actually see that money being much higher, a higher of a return for me.
That was the best answer. Well done. That the systems. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's the thing. It's all about systems and processes and having that in place, because that's what keeps you on track. And that's what helps you, like you said, make those decisions and make sure that they're the right ones. And so thinking about that and what you've implemented for yourself and what you also help agents with, what does that look like? Like, what are some tips around what agents should be thinking about when they hear this word systems, right? You gave us an example already.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times, like I host a call every Friday, and one of my calls I talked about the difference between a system and a tech stack. I think a lot of times people hear the word system and they think, okay, I need to have Follow-Up Boss. I need to have a good CRM. That's a good system. Well, yeah, that's a great piece of technology. It's a great piece of technology, but in order to get something from Facebook to Follow-Up Boss, you probably need to have Zapier set in place. In order to get something from Facebook into actually getting it to Zapier, you need to have it's tech. That's technology, right? It's very different than a system. Follow-Up Boss, for example, is a CRM that is an awesome tool to be used. But inside Follow-Up Boss, what are you doing when a lead comes in? What is your system for getting the lead in there? What is your system for tracking where that lead is at? What is your system for making sure that the lead is being followed up with in the appropriate amount of time? And once you follow up with them, then what are you doing with them, right? So I think I like to define a system. And like I said, everyone should, in my business, in my opinion, there's 6 systems in real estate. There's a financial system, HR system, operations, sales, marketing, and legal. I always forget about legal. It's always my last one. I'm like, wait, what's the last one? It's legal. But so within each of those, we have systems, like systems for onboarding, systems for recruiting, systems for onboarding, systems for offboarding, right? How we onboard and offboard our clients. What is the next phase of our sales system, right? A client comes in, cool. Now they want to talk to us, cool. So we do a discovery call. Once we've done a discovery call, then depending on how that discovery call goes, then we're actually going to do an onboarding. The onboarding is going to include, that's when we're going to send out our agency agreement. That's when we're going to send out our work hours. That's when we're going to send out our client expectations, our client welcome packet, right? Once they onboard, then we're going to move into the activation phase. We're actually going to activate our clients. We're going to make sure that their search is set up, that they're set up with the right agent, they're set up with the right lender, right? So I think that's kind of like how I would define a system. And every single real estate agent has systems. Everyone, we already do. Yeah. It's just most of the time you don't put it into something that's tangible. You don't put it in something that is like, it's a checklist. Do you have a checklist? Do you have a system, by the way? That's a system. But I think a lot of times real estate agents don't make checklists for everything, and don't sit there and ask the questions that need to be asked before creating a checklist. Hope that answers the question.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And you help your agents with that, but do you also help agents outside of your circle?
Yeah. So that is part of my team. Yes, we have systems. We have systems in place. And I'm actually currently building a program where I can actually help agents with all of their systems. In fact, it is called Fix My Systems right now. But right now, what I help agents with is actually help them fix their social media systems, which is why you and I are having this conversation, right? So with social media, it's a marketing system. This whole thing about organic social media is that I think the most I ever spent in 1 year on ads was over $100,000 on ads, on Facebook ads. And I didn't produce nearly enough Actually, it was significantly more than that. It was about 100. That was before I actually was really good about tracking my money. And the only reason I realized I spent so much is because my CPA at the end of the year was like, "What did you spend all this money on?" And I was like, "Oh,
Good
okay."
question.
That was what I call like that's what I call the discovery phase of my business, right? Discovering how to have a business. Uh, and I had spent a lot a lot of money on Facebook ads in 1 year, and that's not even combining, the previous years before that. It was just the 1 year that my CPA finally said something. Um, and what I had found was that all the money I was spending was really because a lot of times people are told you find you put a piece of content out there and it's not doing well, so put money behind it. Put some money behind this content, because if you put money behind this content, it's gonna perform, right?
Yeah.
And I did that for the longest time, and not saying that that doesn't work, because it does work for some people. It really does. I didn't find that it worked for me.
Right.
So what I've learned is how to actually uh, um, put content out there that not only reaches an audience, but reaches an audience organically without spending money, but then actually how to get them to have conversations with you, right? So my social media system, it's a 4-step system. It is what I call awareness, consideration, interest, and conversion. So basically it's a 4-tiered funnel. And so what I focus on is I teach real estate agents how to focus on putting out the right amount of awareness content in the right format, and how to actually take that awareness content down to that conversion piece.
Mm.
And that is where that's a big system right now that a lot of people are learning, and that has been a game changer. It's been a game changer for other people's business. It's been a game changer for my own business. So yes, to answer your question, I do help real estate agents with their systems, and right now I'm really heavily focused on a social media system.
No, I think that's amazing. And the way that you've broken it down, it makes it digestible. And then people can see there's the path. Here's what you got to do to put that out there. And now, speaking about that system and just social media in general, what are maybe a couple, I hate to say mistakes, that you've seen out there? Maybe there's some that you made or others made. I always like to look at mistakes as learning opportunities. Versus maybe some tips you have on how people can make their social media presence a little bit better, perform better.
The number one tip that I have is, or the mistake. Number one mistake I have is when I see real estate agents who post pictures of houses and just listed, just sold all over their social media profiles.
Yes.
And I don't want to insult anybody. So if you're listening to this or you're watching this, please don't take offense to this. What I'm saying is that if you have a real estate license, you should be able to help someone just sell or just buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
That's bottom line. That's what your real estate license is for, right? And if you're doing that, you're literally just like every single other real estate agent out there who has a real estate license. So when your social content is all about just listed, just sold, all you're doing is you're showing to the world that you are a commodity, just like they already think we are. There's a lot of things stacked up against real estate agents right now. We have high interest rates. We have the NAR thing that just happened. We have all of these things with all of these, industry people trying to take over the other industry people. And it's just like there's so many people fighting against real estate. People don't even think real estate agents should make any money. So if you're out there and you're posting just listed, just sold, and you think that you're not a commodity, your social media is not saying the same. They're not telling the same story. So my tip would be to shift that to a story. What are you learning from every single house that you sell? For me, for example, I sold a house back in January, and it was a hard one. It was the very first sale of the year. And we had been on the market for about 60 days. It was a 32-acre property, and it's a very, very unique property. And, the sellers weren't living here. They were living across the country. So we were managing their vacant listing, just so many different things. And what I learned throughout that entire process is that, I learned how to sell a 32-acre piece of land with agricultural tax status, right? I learned about separate tax parcels. There's so many different things I learned in there. Well, what I really learned is that my clients who were retired, moved across the country, who seemed really aggravated and stressed out the entire time, what I really learned is that they had a story. They had a story about them that caused them to have to sell this house that they built their entire lives around. I mean, they built this house from scratch. And they had a really tragic story that actually brought them to having to sell and move out prior to selling across the country and trust a complete stranger to
Mm.
manage this multi-million dollar property. So what I learned was that every single person has a reason and a story. There was a story behind the house. There was a story behind the buyer. The buyer that they wanted, the buyer that they got was the exact buyer that they wanted. And so I had to learn how to find that buyer. I had to learn how to talk to that buyer online. I had to learn how to like go out and network to the right buyer so I could find them exactly what they wanted. And at the same time, after having a house on the market for 80 days, selling it at a full price cash offer. So that is a very different situation than just sold for cash. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think like that's my biggest tip is from every single person that you're interacting with, learn the story and then do yourself a favor and read a book like Stories That Stick by Kendra Hall and learn how to tell a story because the stories are what's going to sell you. Your stories are what's going to tell people I am not a commodity. There is a reason that my commission is a full price plus some. And you're going to learn this is why. So when you're coming to me and you're coming to me through social media channels, you're not bugging me about my commission. You're talking to me because you like this story. You're connecting with someone else's story. And that's my biggest tip. Sorry, I can get super passionate about that. So I have to cut myself off
No,
sometimes
I love
because
that. I was like, yeah,
that's
I'm
my
like,
takeaway.
how many of us listening or watching right now are like, tell me more,
The
you know?
cool thing about like telling stories behind the houses that you're selling and the people that you're working with is then you no longer have to say my niche is homes on acreage. You don't have to say that anymore because you're telling the story, you're talking to the people, and buying and selling a house, especially when your interest rates are 8%, is a very emotional decision. There's not a lot of logic sometimes that goes into it. And even if there's logic in why they made the initial decision, the reason they keep going, right? The reason they keep wanting to go on is because it's very emotional. So if you can get into the emotion and you can really tap into what people want to know, which is these clients had a really tragic story. They had a 32-acre property. It was a multi-million dollar property. They were living across the country and they completely trusted my team to do exactly what we do to find them the exact perfect buyer in the perfect amount of time for cash, full price, and after after the home had been on the market for a long time. So you better believe that that one story attracted me multiple people with homes on acreage who were moving out of the country, who wanted their houses to, who wanted to just leave their houses and let my team manage it, which is actually our niche. So what we do is we help sellers who are moving out of state relocate out of state. A lot of people are helping people relocate in state. We help them relocate out of state. We or sell their home, downsize, upsize, whatever it is. But we help you and we completely manage your property. So we actually have a buyback program. I work with a lender who will fund your new house while you still own your current house. You don't have to use the current house as debt to income. We have a guaranteed buyback program. So if we don't sell your house in X amount of time, we'll actually buy your property from you. And that like right there, because we talk about that. We talk about that. We talk about how every time someone's working with us, they're working with us on our system, right? So it's going
Yeah.
back to systems. We have a system that's going to help you be able to sell your house seamlessly, efficiently. And that's what people want to know. It's very different than like just sold. I sold $10 million in real estate this year. I have 3 houses in contract right now. Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
I 100% agree. And that alone, that story right there is going to get somebody motivated and hit the ground running and definitely help them get a sale for sure. When they think about that and how they can implement it in their business. And before we talk real briefly about YouTube, because I know, we could sit here all day and talk because this is good, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Before we get to the YouTube part, just on the social media part and creating the story, I'm thinking agents are already saying in their head, yeah, but I don't have time to record this video. I don't have time for social media. And now you're asking me to create this story and paint this picture. So can you break that just down real quickly? Like, how do you go about it? Do you have your full on team who takes pieces of that and puts it all together? Or are you there sitting there spending hours, right? Once a week where you're batching things, or are you doing it in the moment? Just a little inside look at that.
I definitely don't spend hours creating content. If you follow me on Instagram, my content takes me about 20 seconds to film, if that.
Right.
And we actually have, and I teach this too. I teach people how to recycle their content. So I really focus on caption rich. But your content needs to be super caption rich. So if you have time to scroll social media, you have time to create content. That's all I have to say. If you have time to sit there and just dink around, which we all do. Hello, we're in real estate. Every single one of us probably has ADHD. Okay. It's part of the name of the game. But
So
if you have time to sit there and dig into like things in your business that don't really matter, you have time to create content. All you have to do is schedule time. I do, once a week to basically look and like make sure my content's on track. I now have a team that actually gets my content out for me, but I film all my own content. It takes me literally 20 seconds to film. And if it's something that I'm going to do what I call a talking head video,
yeah.
I film that without even thinking about it. I don't even practice. I just like turn on my camera and I'm like, okay, I want to talk to you like today. You don't want to buy a house because the interest rate's too high because you probably think blah, blah, blah. And that's what I do. And then, we keep all of our captions. We have a library of all of our captions that actually were high performing, and we actually recycle those captions about every 5 to 6 weeks.
Love that. See, it's not that hard once you get a system in place and you put it on your calendar. That's the key.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of social media and YouTube and captions, because YouTube's a whole other ballgame for a lot of agents who, maybe they are okay with Instagram and do a little bit with the Facebook and all these other social networks. But YouTube's a whole nother game because you got now the thumbnails and you got the tags and you got the description and the title and all that stuff. So walk us through a couple tips that you might have, or maybe even mistakes if those come to mind, and then the tips.
So a couple of mistakes I have made with YouTube is just doing, super high production. Like my high production is now on my listings. Like I'll do high production for listings depending on what my clients want to pay for. So super high production. So I used to like go to a studio and film all of my talking head video in a studio, and it's just like, oh, well, I'm performing. But again, it's going to go back to tracking, understanding your analytics, understanding what's working for you. It's all about having a system to track what's working. And what I found was there's one video on my YouTube channel that I filmed back in when I first was active in my business. It was like October of 2019. I got a referral to sell a piece of land. That the price tag was $10,000 on a piece of land, and I was like, $10,000, math, right? I spent more money on traveling because it was on an island, so I had to like take the ferry. I spent more money on travel. I spent more money on commission split, taxes, fees, all that stuff. And I did do a listing shoot for it. I spent more money on that than I actually made on the listing. That was the most high producing video I've ever done. I've gotten 10 listings from that one video on my YouTube channel. And that was something I filmed back in 2019. And the thing is, the reason why I think it was so high producing is because, I had my videographer come and film it, right? But it was so casual. It was literally me without a script. I had no script. I probably said, I probably said the specs of the property. I probably said it like 6 times in the whole video. Like, hey, just so you know, this is one piece of land. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I think that's what I did. But the cool part about the video is that I was like, it's on a place called Anderson Island.
Okay.
And we were just walking around, and I had one of my colleagues with me, and I was like, we were just talking. I was like, man, if I lived here, I would if I had this place, I would actually build a place to just come write a book, because this is so peaceful. And we just sat down on the bench, and the videographer just like was walking around. And it's a super casual, like vlog style video.
Yeah.
So That being said, I know a lot of agents. I have a few people that I work with directly who are really into YouTube, and they've done a lot of YouTube coaching programs. And they're every single coaching program works. Just so you know, every coaching program works. It's about how
Mhm.
much effort you want to put into it, right? So
There it
every
is.
coaching program works. And so I know people who, like, one of my friends. She's got 17 deals in escrow from YouTube. That is her only marketing strategy. It's her only marketing strategy. And she's been doing it for a year straight. And it takes her 8 hours to do one video. She puts out 4 videos a month. And sometimes two a week. So sometimes 8. So between 4 to 8 videos a month is what she puts out. So it's 8 hours per video, including filming, editing, thumbnail, caption research, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say that to like overwhelm people and turn people off from YouTube at all.
Right.
What I am saying is that YouTube and Instagram have very much the same algorithm. Very much the same algorithm. So if you have time, like this is how I do it in my business. I actually focus heavily on Instagram because I freaking love Instagram. I could talk about it all day, every day. I love it. But recently, in the last 8 months, we actually started because Meta changed, Instagram changed their algorithm at the beginning of the year, and it's now become an SEO friendly platform, which is great because you can use tools like Keywords Everywhere, Answer the Public, TubeBuddy to help you research your captions for Instagram. So guess what we do? I have put a piece of content out on Instagram and it works for me. I use it 3 times in 3 different ways. We recycle it 3 different types of ways. If it works for me in 3 different ways, that becomes a YouTube video. I did that. My most recent YouTube video is to buy or not to buy. And that video picked me 2 clients. So my thing on YouTube now is I am not putting out, I was putting out 1 video a week every single day. I found that that took a lot of time away from the platform that I really love. So what I
Yeah.
had to learn how to do is be able to use what I love to do and also be able to work this way. And so my tip would be with YouTube specifically is that um, stay on YouTube. Use if you're focusing on social and you want to get on YouTube, start with just repurposing your content from Instagram to YouTube Shorts. At least do that because YouTube Shorts, I have views on YouTube Shorts that are like 6,000 7,000 views on a short that I created on Instagram. I'm like, oh cool. So all of a sudden my views on YouTube are way up, and that really helps. But also, you don't have to have a script for YouTube. You don't have to have a script. The most natural content works the best. Like that video that produced me 10 listings, I didn't have a freaking script for that. And I go back, I watch it, I cringe because I'm like, oh my God, I said that like 16 times. But people don't care. People want to see the real you. It's the same with short form content, long form content. It's the same thing. People want to see the real you. When it comes to thumbnails, all you got to do is stop at the end of a video if you're filming something and go, freeze frame. That's all you got to do. Just freeze yourself. For like, it's going to feel really stupid, but that's all you got to do. And my editor will just grab that and he'll take that still right there. So that's my big tip with YouTube. I also use YouTube a lot for like internal things. So we have YouTube set up to go out through for our videos out through HomeBot. I talk a lot about HomeBot. We also have YouTube playlists that are internal specifically for just our clients. So once a seller goes in contract, we actually have like the seller transaction timeline on a private playlist inside YouTube. So we use it that way as well. But any traffic to your YouTube channel is good traffic. So if you get a private playlist that you're not showing to everyone else, you don't have to have it edited. You don't have to have some crazy stuff on it. It's just like, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Client, you're in contract. Congratulations. Here's the next step, right? That's a transactional video. You're driving that person to your YouTube channel, right? You're putting that in your email. You're driving them to your YouTube channel. They're going to start seeing all the other stuff that you put on YouTube, and they're going to go down that YouTube rabbit hole, right? They're going to see a video that you created, and they're going to send that to their friends. And so, like, YouTube is kind of my hub where I store. So even if you don't see a lot of public content, there's a ton of private content back there.
So smart. That is so smart. And such great tips. And I noticed you dropped some resources for people to do their research for content and things. So that's good. They'll have to go back and listen to that piece because that was genius. And I love how you broke that down and you're doing the Instagram and testing things and then plopping it over to YouTube, which is fantastic. That's such a great way to go about it. And with the YouTube piece of it, I guess it goes over to the Instagram too. Are you really obsessed with and that might be a strong word, but obsessed with followers and subscribers, or are you more focused on getting your content out there and having that hit the right people?
With any of my content. Like on Instagram, I have 1,800 and some odd followers, but I convert. I have about a 10% conversion ratio on Instagram from conversion to from follower to conversation. So I'm cool with that, right? So that's 180 people that I'm talking to on a regular basis on Instagram. Cool, I'm happy with that. I don't care about likes, followers, subscribers. What I care about is I like to know that the right people see my content, and the only way you can tell if the right people see your content is I'm going to go back to my storytelling where I'm talking about the client that I want to help, right? I'm putting out content about that. I'm sharing actual stories about people. And that's when I can tell that the content's hitting the right people, because those are the people that are calling me. Those are the people that are coming into my inbox. Those are the people that are emailing me, clicking on my link, whatever it is. That's the game changer.
And so that was going to be my last question there was, that's how you're tracking, is you're getting that response from them, whether it be the comment, the share, the DM, the click or the text or whatever, you're getting some kind of response. And somewhere in that conversation, they're relating back to, I saw you on your YouTube video, or I watched XYZ, or we saw this home and we were curious.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like the more I put content out on, content comes from everywhere. Like my thing about YouTube, which part of the reason I love YouTube so much as I'm not active on it, I should probably do it more. But as much as I'm not active on it, like you don't have to be active on YouTube forever, because guess what? YouTube goes on and on and on and on. That's the one thing about social content. Like, and that's actually part of what I teach in my course, is actually how to take your social content and make it last a lot longer. But YouTube, like it's a little bit more work for me to put it out there, but it's a lot less work for me to maintain it, if that makes any sense. Like on
100%.
social, it's a lot less work for me to put it out, but it's a lot more work for me to maintain it, right? So it's like a little bit of that. But to answer your question, yes, we always ask, part of our system is to always ask, how did you hear about us, right? And honestly, the answer that I get most of the time is, I don't really know. I see you everywhere. I don't really know. I see you everywhere. And I'm like, okay, cool. Do you think you see me more on YouTube? So I really kind of want to try. And then sometimes people know. I mean, YouTube, my call to action is usually like book an appointment with me. So if I get an appointment that's booked directly on my calendar, I just kind of assume it's from YouTube. My call to action on Instagram is a lot different. It's like make a comment, and so then I'll try to get into my CRM. So it's a little bit of a different way that they come in. But yeah, we always ask.
I love that. And that right there is gold for anybody. I mean, this whole episode is amazing, but that right there is a key thing that I always try to ask people as well, and emphasize. Ask, because you don't know. And a lot of times you do, like you said, they'll have, I don't know, I see you everywhere. And that's a good thing. And then you can sort of drill down from there, and see what happens. But that's a key question to ask.
Yep, agreed.
All right. So as we wrap up here, we covered a lot. If any last minute tips or pieces that you wanted to get out there that we didn't already touch on, this will be the time for you to share it. And then I'll ask you also, where can people find you online and learn more about you and reach out because they heard this or they want to check out more of what you have to offer?
Yes, absolutely. My last tip I'm going to give you, and this is a nod to one of the best coaches I ever had. She says, like, you just got to do it now. And so I've always been that person. You just got to keep going, just keep doing it. Like if you are struggling with trying to get on video, you're struggling with trying to figure out like where you want to be, right? YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, LinkedIn, so many different things, shiny objects. You got to find the one thing, and you've got to commit yourself to doing it. Like I told you, a friend of mine she's got 17 deals in escrow right now from YouTube, but she has focused solely on YouTube over the last year. So I think that's a good payoff. 17 deals, one YouTube channel, or one focus. I mean, she's got more deals too. Those that come in like a little bit more like referrals and whatnot, past clients, it's different things. But like 17 from one lead source. I mean, I don't know very many people that can say they've got one from organic. I mean, it literally costs her nothing other than like her video editor. I'm sure it's like whatever she pays for that.
Yeah.
but like that's literally no money behind ads. It's literally just putting money out there, and it's what's entirely possible. I've closed $10 million in sales from one social media outlet, one social media outlet, one meta. So my Facebook and Instagram. So one outlet, right? So it's entirely possible to do what you want to do to meet your goals organically, like without spending a crap ton of money. I almost cussed. Sorry. I get really passionate about people wasting money in real estate, because part of the reason I got into this business is so I can not be broke. And it does feel like a lot of agents I talk to are bleeding money. They don't know, they're broke. We're broke real estate agents. And I'm like, okay, that's not cool. Like, I make way too much money and work way too hard to be broke. And so if you want to get out of that broke phase and you want to do something and be really successful, you got to find one thing, you got to do it, and you got to do it right now. That's very long. I'm sorry. I get really passionate.
It was worth every second. Let me tell you, every second. No, that was perfect.
I could talk about that all day, every day, people.
Yes.
Promise. You can find me at Lynea Carver, Instagram at Lynea Carver, on Facebook at Lynea Carver Realtor. I have a Facebook group, Real Talk with Lynea, and there is where I give lots of tips, lots of insight. I host a call every Friday where, if you want to hear more of me talk about things that I get super passionate about, I do a lot of that there as well. And then you can also learn more about my course, my social media, Fix My System social media for real estate agents. You can learn about that on Instagram, Facebook. I have it everywhere. So.
And I'll be sure to have all the links in the description below so you guys can connect. And if anybody listening or watching has any questions around video specifically, obviously you have both of us at your fingertips to connect with and learn more. And we'll put all of the links for all the resources down below in the show notes. I want to say thank you so much, Lynea, for being here and sharing these gold mine tips. This has been an amazing episode, and we're just so grateful to have you take up the time in your busy schedule to be here with us.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.